Hello everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel. And welcome to our long-awaited playthrough of Call of Cthulhu Alone Against the Frost by Chaosium Incorporated. Now, as I mentioned in the product unboxing video last week, I wanted to do Call of Cthulhu Alone Against the Frost last week, but as you could probably hear in that video, I sounded miserable. My voice was plugged up, and I was feeling like I was about to lose my voice, actually. I'm still kind of a little bit plugged up, but at least I don't sound like I'm going to lose my voice. So I think we're going to go ahead with Alone Against the Frost today. Now, Call of Cthulhu is actually a tabletop role-playing game where theoretically you sit around the table with your friends, building a story over a scenario in however many sessions a scenario might take you. But Chaosium's also come out with these alone adventures that you can use, that are solitaire adventures, actually. They're based, as you'll see, I won't get into what they are actually. You'll see that as we go through the course of this adventure. But in this one, we're actually going to take an adventure now that it's turned into summertime, or most of the way to summer. We're actually going to take an adventure somewhere a lot colder than it is here. So we're going to take an adventure, as you can see based on the cover, up to Canada. So we're going to take an adventure into Canada's wilds. And the backstory here is that we are playing as a professor, and we've managed to approve an academic expedition up to the wilds of Canada. So that's what we're doing in this adventure. But we have the professor, we are going to have our 3 grad students, and we have a guide that we've enlisted with us. So let's move over. I'll show you each of their character sheets, and I'll give you a little bit of backstory about each one of them. So let's go meet our professor first. So here's the professor of the team, Dr. L.C. Nadelman, and as they mention as Chaosium mentions in the book for this adventure, you can play L.C. Nadelman. You can play Dr. Nadelman as a male or a female. I'm going to choose to play her as Laurie Carroll Nadelman. So she's the anthropologist. You can see her character sheet here. Now, I'll explain a little bit about each of these character values, each about some of these numbers. So let's zoom in on the character sheet here. You can see for some of these values, each one comes with a number, which is the base value. Then there's the half value, and then you divide the value again by 5. So the main number here is what you'll be testing against most of the time. So when you make a skill test in Call of Cthulhu, you're going to roll a D100. So I'll put this down for a second so I can show you. So these are the dice we'll be using. They might be a little bit hard to read. Where is that tent? Ah, here we go. So basically what you'll do is you'll roll these dice, and that's essentially the difficulty of the skill test. So if I get a value like that on these two, that's actually 100%. So that's how that will work. But the idea is like I said, you want to be at or below what you roll on the dice. Just kind of that'll determine the difficulty of the test. So anyway, so coming back to the character sheet for a second. The 70 here is what you'll be rolling against most of the time. If the adventure calls for a hard test, then you'll be rolling against that value. Extreme, you'll be rolling against the 5th value. So that's how those will work. And I've assigned various skills based on a balance of values that I had. Now on here, there's also sanity, because we are dealing with stuff in the Cthulhu mythos. So there will occasionally be stuff that will have us potentially go insane. We've got luck, which we can use to manipulate rolls. Hit points, which are used for health as you take damage, and then magic points in case we get spells that we need to cast. But anyway, so that's a little bit about the characters. Now let me give you Dr. Nadelman's backstory. Dr. L.C. Nadelman. You are the youngest PhD to be tenured at Miskatonic University in Arkham, Massachusetts. You are a rising star in the new field of cultural anthropology. Even your European counterparts are impressed by your cascade of learned articles. Your theories are exciting, your classes are always full, and your students idolize you. Previous expeditions on your resume have been just sensational enough to draw the favorable attention of the press, to the university in general, and to the Department of Anthropology in particular. Rumors fly about large private endowments for your specialty. Your department head and colleague administrators often invite you to dinner. So that's a little bit about Dr. Nadelman. Now let's go ahead and meet the graduate students, and we'll start off. Well, we'll just meet the graduate students. All right, here's our first graduate student, Sylvia Davidson. Now, I actually do have 5 of these characters. They all came with the adventure. So the way they'll be able to help us out throughout the course of the adventure is whenever the adventure instructs us to make a roll, we can have somebody else make the roll for us. So if we get into, let's say, a library use roll, and we determine that we see somebody's got a bad value, we can have whoever has the highest value in that skill make that roll. So that's how the graduate students that's how our party will be able to assist us in this adventure. So anyway, let's go ahead and hear a little bit about Sylvia. The latest arrival in a prominent line of Boston Brahmins, Sylvia is the first to take her studies to the postgraduate level and her boots into the wild. Thanks to her academic acumen, you have already conferred with the department head about tapping her for a junior position on the faculty. If she has a fault, it is an invariable seriousness, which you hope may slip a little in the field. Of course Sylvia signed up for the Nadelman expedition. It was the next logical step in her pursuit of academic excellence. So that's a little bit about Sylvia. Now let's go meet another one of the graduate students. Here's Norman Faulkner. He's another one of the graduate students. Looking at his skill set, seems like he's a pretty balanced character, but anyway. So, Norman is an atypical character around the department. A mature student, he worked for 16 years as a custodian whilst taking advantage of the long night shifts to educate himself from the library's books and save for this period of study. You persuaded Norman to come on the expedition, hoping his calm, reliable disposition would make him a steady companion to the younger students. So we have an older student on the team, which again might not be a bad thing, but anyway, I'm getting a little ahead of myself there. Now let's go meet the last of our graduate students. Here's the last of our graduate students, Bernard Epstein, or L. Epstein. I should apologize in advance in case you might still hear me coughing. I'm still getting over the tail end of this cold, so hopefully there won't be too much of that in the video, but anyway, our last graduate student, Bernard Epstein, seems to be a very outdoorsy type, just from looking at his skill set, but again, I'm getting ahead of myself on that. But let's hear a little bit about his backstory. Bernard Epstein, an earnest fellow from the Upper West Side, Bernard is popular among his classmates. His extracurricular conversation of late has centered on his upcoming wedding to his sweetheart, Catherine. This is sure to be a dazzling event, and as his favorite professor, your invitation has already arrived. Bernard certainly possesses an aptitude for anthropology and a desire to test his knowledge in the field, but you suspect he signed up for the expedition to defy his image as a city boy and prove his outdoorsman credentials to his bride-to-be. Yeah, I won't get into my comments about that, but I could very easily see that about Bernard, or really, again, I'm going to swallow the comment that I had coming from that. But anyway, yeah, again, very outdoorsy. And now let's go meet our wilderness guide. And here's our wilderness guide, Charlie Foxtail. The typical stat distribution you might expect for a wilderness guide, looking at her. But anyway, so let's hear a little bit about Charlie Foxtail. It surprises most people to discover that Fort McDonald's best tracker is a woman from the Tsuut'ina Nation, known by some as the Sarsi Indians, but those who ridicule her often regret it, and the bruises can last for weeks. Charlie defied her elders' wishes to leave the village and work as a guide. She is saving up money to send her bedridden husband to Winnipeg for an expensive operation. Alright, so very pure, obviously, but anyway, that will do it for our roster of characters. Now let's jump right into the adventure. Alright, here's the starting passage of our adventure. You, Dr. Elsie Nadelman, or Lori Carroll Nadelman in this case, have long been fascinated by the prehistory of North America, particularly with the big woods of the north. The Canadian wilderness remains as unexplored as the Amazon basin, and hunters, trappers, and gold seekers tell hair-raising stories of the peoples in the area. Of course, they also tell tales of terrifying demons and other exotic fantasies. The time is right to bring a rigorous academic perspective to the big woods. The truth hidden there is doubtless more fascinating than any traveler's yarn. For over a year you have petitioned your department to finance a modest summer exploratory trip into Canada's Northwest Territories. Now, at last, your funding has been approved and you make your preparations to leave at the end of the spring semester. Many of your graduate students are eager to go, but you can only take 3. You have chosen to explore the valley of the North Hanina. In the local dialect, Hanina means the river of magic power. The yarn spinners have worked overtime on the legends of the North Hanina. It is said to be haunted by invisible presences and bloodthirsty headhunters. A part of the valley where a party of prospectors was found beheaded is still known as Headsman's Glen. Your small expedition takes the train into north-central Canada and then boards a chartered launch to Great Slave Lake and down the Mackenzie to Fort Macdonald, where an outpost of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police represents the sole power of civilization amidst many thousands of square miles of mountains, lakes, taiga, and swamp. Fort Macdonald is a trading post for trappers and natives. The best route into the valley of the North Hanina is upstream by canoe, following the west branch of the Mackenzie to the mouth of the tributary you seek. A single bark canoe of excellent make has been reserved for you, as well as all the basic gear that your summer trip requires. Officials tell you that guides are reluctant to venture into the North Hanina. The local peoples have always shunned the region, and most of the white men who dared to trespass upon the river of magic power have never returned. Still, you locate a tough professional guide named Charlie Foxtail. She narrows her eyes upon hearing of your destination, but is persuaded by the high wages you are offering. Finally, all is ready to go. To begin your adventure, go to 1. Now, I was trying to tiptoe around this earlier, but this is in fact designed in the same vein as the Choose Your Own Adventure books of old, where you would have something where you'd either have something happen, go to the next passage, or you'd choose basically your path forward. So it's written in that same vein. Now, all right, now we'll go to passage 1. Passage 1. After a few days on the west branch of the Mackenzie, the stuffy corridors of Miskatonic University seem very far away. Sun stipples the water, from the glare of midday to the gentle burn of sunset. Caribou gaze at you from the shore. Ahead, a heron drags an unfortunate stickleback from the shallows. It would feel like a vacation were it not for the relentless demand of the paddle. Each day makes the students more adept at keeping time with you and Charlie. Your supply of gasoline is limited, so you run the outboard motor as seldom as possible. Sun and wind grant Bernard the outdoor complexion he desires. You locate the tributary one evening, just as the light begins to fail. Next day you launch into the North Hanina. The Ram Mountains loom in the distance, through a heat haze. At this latitude, the summer nights are so short that darkness gives the waterways no time to cool. Norman wipes sweat from the back of his head. The North Hanina is a rougher river than the West Branch. Its floodplain is obstructed by sandbars, hills of driftwood, shingle islands, and forests of dead trees rooted in the mud. The current points all of them downstream, like arrows warning you to turn back. Sylvia turns to your guide. Charlie? Does your people live in this area? Charlie grunts and watches the water. For a moment it seems she will not answer. Then she looks at Sylvia. At one time, now, only outcasts. We will avoid them. Sylvia frowns. But why are they... But Charlie raises a hand. From ahead, slowly building, you hear the sound of rushing water. This is the place of the splitting water, she says. Here, the river is alive. Each day it makes itself new. Make a luck roll. If you succeed, go to 2. If you fail, go to 3. So we'll bring the dice tower in shot for that. Grab my percentile dice. And as I look at the group, the character with the highest luck Let's see. Yep, our highest luck is actually Dr. Nadelman at 85, so she's going to make this roll. And remember, I want to be at or below 85 on this roll. That, as we zoom in on that other way, all right, that actually comes out to be a 74, so we have passed that roll. And as we look at our passage, we succeed, so we go to 2. Passage 2. The expedition spends the day working through a baffling network of waterways. Sometimes you are forced to back down impassable channels to find an easier way. Sometimes you blunder across the heads of powerful chutes and are swept along with them. At certain points, your party has to wade in waist-deep water, inching the craft along by hand. You pass labyrinths of wooded islands, fast water, and drift. Finally, you select a peaceful backwater in which to moor and make camp for the night. Roll a d10. If the result is even, go to 4. If the result is odd, go to 5. Alright, so we'll grab the percentile die out, bring the dice tower back in shot, and we'll make our roll. And our roll is even, which sends us to passage 4. Alright, passage 4. Here we go. You take first watch that night, while the others sleep after an exhausting day. The brief darkness is disturbed by the splash of beavers in the stream, the trilling of insects, and the hoot of a great gray owl. Make a listen roll. If you succeed, go to 9. If you fail, go to 8. So Dr. Nadelman's listen is, 20. So again, we want to be at or below 20. That is a 31, so we just barely fail. Which, as we look at our passage, takes us to passage 8. Alright, passage 8. You hear nothing to disturb your watch. At midnight, you yawn and cross the tiny circle of firelight to where Bernard Epstein sleeps, whispering to wake him up. When the student makes no sound, you probe the shadows with the toe of your boot. You feel only sandy soil beneath the empty blankets. Concerned, you repeat Bernard's name, louder. The other members of your party scramble out of their bedrolls, bleary and asking questions. "Be silent," barks Charlie. She takes a brand from the campfire and holds it aloft, passing it over the ground surrounding Bernard's blankets. She pauses. The brand trembles in her brown, leathery fist. Even your amateur eye can spot the marks impressed into the earth. You ask Charlie if they are the marks of a raccoon. "Not a raccoon," the guide whispers in an odd tone. She says no more. Can you persuade her to open up? Make a persuade roll. If you succeed, go to 14. If you fail, go to 15. So everybody else is awake for this roll. But Bernard is missing, so we can't use him for this. And we were looking for a persuade roll. Who's our best persuasion? Charlie's out because she's the one we're trying to persuade. 25, 10. Looks like Dr. Nadelman's got to make the roll herself. And this is going to be a tough roll to make, because that's a 25. Her persuasion is not good. A 99. Charlie is not going to want to talk about this. I'm sure of that. So if we fail, we go to 15. Passage 15. "I know nothing. Nothing," Charlie bellows, deeply agitated. You calm her with some difficulty. Once she subsides, you turn to Norman and ask him to arrange a search for Bernard. You glance back at the sullen Charlie. You could really use her woodcraft skills, but can you depend on her? Make a psychology roll. If you succeed, go to 27. If you fail, go to 29. I will not be surprised if I have to make this roll with Dr. Nadelman myself. 40 on psychology, 10. Yeah, Dr. Nadelman's got to make this, but at least she's got a decent-ish chance, even if the odds are right and slightly against us. Ugh, that's a 46, so we just fail. Which sends us to passage 29. Passage 29. No, shouts the distraught Charlie. You do not understand. We must leave this valley at once. It is madness to stay. To accept defeat and go home, go to 32. So let the superstitious guide sulk in camp while you lead the others in a search, go to 52. I think we're actually going to let the superstitious guide sulk in camp while we accept a search. Or while we go for a search. So we go to 52. Passage 52. After a fruitless search through the twilight bush, you and your students return to camp to find that the canoe has disappeared. Charlie is gone, and she has taken some of the supplies. The students exchange a look. You struggle to hide your own dismay. You must be strong for their sake. Record the keyword barefoot. Go to 53. Okay, so we're going to grab a sheet of paper here. Keywords barefoot, and then go to passage 53. Alright, so also Charlie has gone missing, which means we can't use her either. She's left. Alright, passage 53. You realize how ill-prepared you were for the menaces of the North Hanina. Your only hope is to escape it as soon as possible. Go to 324. Here we go. Right. Passage 324. You and the two students travel over trackless woods on short rations. From day to day, the air cools as the short summer declines into the rugged subarctic autumn. If any of your party require healing, you may restore 1 hit point each. To follow the river, go to 470. To scale a ridge, go to 469. To thread... Okay. Sorry, this is taking me a little adjusting. Still can't get this right. I'm going to pitch that up just a little bit. There we go. To thread through light woodland, go to 218. To penetrate deeper into the forest, go to 557. To concentrate on finding supplies, make a luck roll. If you succeed, go to 654. If you fail, go to 132. I think we're going to try to look for supplies first. So, once again, Dr. Nadelman has our best luck at 85, so she's going to make this roll. Pitch that back down so you can see the result of the roll. So again, we want to be at or under 85. That's a 47, so we definitely find supplies. Which sends us to 654. Okay, 654. By a stroke of luck, your party stumbles upon an abandoned cabin stocked with rusty but edible tins of food. This happy discovery solves your food problem for the time being. There is no trace of the person who built this cabin, probably a prospector or hunter who fell victim to the hazards of the valley. You may make an improvement check for your luck to gain 1d10 luck points. Go to 77. I actually didn't expect to have an improvement check. I'll have to check how that works. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. So the way we make the improvement check to potentially add to our luck is we roll against our luck. If the result is greater, then we get to add 1d10 luck points. So we have to be above an 85, which is not going to be easy. That's a roll, as we zoom in, other way. That's a roll of an 80, so we don't get to add to our luck. But we will move on to passage 77. All right. Passage 77. You and the others make your beds in the decrepit shell of the old cabin. The sagging walls offer some shelter from the chilly wind, though the condition of the roof makes you hope it doesn't rain. The frogs are noisy outside, but you think you hear something. You ask for silence and listen. There. The rustle of unsteady feet walking through the dead matting of the forest floor. You tell the students to arm themselves before stepping outside. Your rifle wavers. You see a white man. His beard is wild and greasy. He is naked except for rags wrapped around his feet and an animal hide tied about his waist. The crazed expression worries you, but he carries no weapons. To shoot the intruder, go to 78. To put aside your gun and help the wretch to the fire, go to 175. So technically, we're the intruders in the wilds here. Question is, do we help him or do we try to shoot him? I think we better look after the students. I think we better take a shot at them. So we're going to move to 78. You have the students to think of. You fire point blank into the man's chest. Make a luck roll. If you succeed, go to 81. If you fail, go to 79. Alright, so we're making a luck roll, and this is against an 85. That is a 39, so we have definitely passed that. And the pass takes us to 81. The stranger staggers backwards under the impact of your bullet and then straightens up, completely unhurt. Go to 127. That cannot be a good sign. He staggers away from a point-blank shot unhurt. The face before you deforms into that of a fiend incarnate. 3 times it belches out a raucous shriek, and at each, the figure grows and changes. With the third cry, it is a human no longer, but a demonic giant of ice and tatters. To attempt to fight the creature, go to 184. To attempt to flee, go to 187. Let's see, we took a point-blank shot at the chest. He staggered back and straightened up completely unhurt. I think this is time we got on the Gitfo plan. So, yeah, let's go to 187. Alright, passage 187. You urge your thunderstruck students to flee, but it is too late for them. As you run, you shiver at their cries. Throwing a glance over your shoulder, you see bloodied snow and the windwalker ripping at their bodies. Your only hope is that the creature will be sated and not pursue you. Make a luck roll. If it succeeds, go to 336. If it fails, go to 304. Alright, so we have lost all of our students, and now we're alone. So what roll were we looking for? We were looking for a luck roll. And once again, we have to be at or below 85. Ooh, that was a close one, but that is a 79, so we pass. Go to 336. All right. Passage 336. You run until you fall, utterly spent. When you look back, you hear and see nothing. You are safe for the moment, but now you must face the big woods alone. Go to 67. Oh, fantastic. So we are alone. We're alone God knows where. All right. Passage 67. Despondent over the prospect of a trek through the wildest stretch of the Northwest Territories, you ram your way through the bush with bitter violence. Thunder rumbles in the western mountains like the echo of distant drums. The peaks fade into a lowering canopy of clouds. You wade a small river and then cross a pine ridge. The scenery blurs together as you go. In the days that follow, you try to fish with your bare hands, eat whatever you can kill, and take the berries that grow along the way. You are undergoing a test that would daunt a seasoned frontiersman. If you require healing, you may restore 1 hit point, which we don't. Make a survival woodland roll. If you succeed, go to 513. If you fail, you have several options. Let's make the survival wilderness a woodland roll. So we're facing a 40 here. And we have shockingly passed with a 33. All right, so that takes us to 513. All right, passage 513. It is time to decide the course of your expedition. Fort McDonald lies within your reach, and you may go there to end your experience in the North Hanina. If you still have an appetite for exploration, you may take a short side trip or even strike back out into the depths of the valley. To return to Fort McDonald, go to 593. To take a side trip, go to 594. If your party still has 3 members, and it doesn't, you may return to the wilds, go to 425. So the question is, do we go back to Fort McDonald, or do we take a side trip? I think we're going to take a side trip here, so we're going to go to 594. Here we go. All right. 594. Of course, you must return to Fort McDonald, but there's time for one last side trip in the hopes of learning a little more about the North Hanina Valley. All right, we're alone, so we're going to go to 597. I won't bother about the other choices. 597. Despite the risks and your weakened condition, you diverge from the direct route to Fort McDonald, determined to explore as much of the valley as possible before you quit. If to strike deep into the forest, go to 501. To hug the tree line, go to 594, or 494. To explore rocky environs, go to 427. To stick to the river, make a luck roll. If you succeed, go to 126. If you fail, go to 119. What do we want to do here? Let's explore rocky environs. Let's go up to 427. After each day of lonely travel, you spread your tattered sleeping blanket on an anonymous rock, concerned only that it be dry. This one seems like any other. Make a science geology roll. If you succeed, go to 428. If you fail, go to 513. Uh-oh. Oh, yuck. Science geology, and we didn't put any points into science whatsoever. So, yeah, this should be a laugh. So basically, science geology means I have to roll a 1, and yeah, right. I like to call that a you gotta be kidding me roll. Apparently the game is not kidding me. That was a 1. So yeah, we have passed that. Don't ask me how, but we did. Alright, 428. As your glance passes over the ledge of quartz pegmatite where you spent the night, you spot something that glitters. You take your knife and scratch out a bit of the mineral deposited in the vein. It seems to be gold. You scratch out the best map you can before moving on. Record the word charcoal. Go to 513. So that's another keyword that we get. I have a list of keywords that I'm keeping off camera. So in case you hear the sound of writing, that's what that is. So go to 513. All right. Once again, we're back to the course of the expedition. Yeah, let's actually make another side trip. Why not? All right. So once again, we have to return to Fort McDonald, but we're alone, so go to 597. All right. We've already explored rocky environs, so we either strike deep into the forest, hug the tree line, or stick to the river. Let's go deep into the forest this time. 501, right? Yes, striking deep into the forest. Okay. All right, passage 501. You trudge on alone. Weary, hungry, footsore, you are blind to the bleak splendors of the lonely, remote forest through which you pass. You sense your insignificance against the merciless, tangled wilderness. Make a listen roll. If you succeed, go to 502. If you fail, go to 506. Her listen is 20. I would laugh at the idea of passing this, but I did just pass a science theology roll where I had to roll a 1. Excuse me. So, I guess I shouldn't completely dismiss the idea. Just barely fail. That is a 22. Came agonizingly close, but close only counts in horseshoes, hand grenades, and nuclear weapons. But this is none of those. So, passage 506. As you go noisily through the thickets, a vast shadow passes overhead. You look up. Make a sanity roll. If you fail, lose 1d6 sanity. Go to 507. Her sanity is 80, so hopefully we won't have to make a roll on that. Alright, that's a 24, so we don't have to make a sanity roll. Go to 507. A ghastly pink fungoid thing. It sees you. The flyer seems clumsy. It wobbles away while you dash into the deep forest. Can it track you through the canopy? Suddenly you come upon a cave entrance. Its moss-felted rocks yawn open like a mouth and green teeth. You slip inside and huddle near the opening. Peering outside you see, to your terror, a fungoid thing wavering through the bushes through which you ran. Did it see you? Gain 1 point of Cthulhu Mythos, which is another skill we have. If you have a rifle, you may shoot at the alien. Go to 508. If not, or if you prefer to remain quiet and motionless, go to 414. Alright, so first of all, we'll gain our 1 point in Cthulhu Mythos. And then, given that I'm trying to get out of here, I think trying to seem quiet and motionless is probably a better plan. So, yeah, let's go to 414. You press yourself into the shadows, listening hard and keeping your breath shallow. Somewhere nearby, leaves rustle. Is that a buzzing in the distance? Roll 1d10. If the result is even, go to 518. If the result is odd, go to 515. Alright, so we'll grab our d10. Alright, that is a 6, which is an even result, and that sends us to 518. Undisturbed, you hide in the cave all night. Toward dawn, you doze a little. In the morning, you continue your journey. Back to 513. Alright. Time to decide the course of your expedition, yada yada yada. This is our third time back to this passage. Do we want to take a side trip? Another side trip, or do we just want to get out of here? You know what, let's make one more side trip. So back to 594. Here we go. Alright. Once again, we're alone. Alright, so the only thing we haven't done yet... Actually, no, we have not hugged the tree line or stuck to the river. Let's hug the tree line this time. As you wander the banks of the North Hanina alone, you hear the crackle of walkers in the woods ahead. At first, your heart leaps at finding other people, but then you remember the cruel lessons of the big woods. They may not be friendly. You hide and wait for them. A moment later, a party of men appears, undersized men with unnaturally gray skin. One holds the severed head of a woodsman. You duck your head, hoping they will not see you. Make a stealth roll. If you succeed, go to 111. If you fail, go to 495. This may be the time where we've struck out one too many times. We have to pass another 20% roll. And in a laugh, we do not, because that is a roll of 67. So we fail the stealth roll. Go to 495. Alright. There we go, 495. After the physical and mental ordeals of the last week, you are in terrible shape. Your tension causes an involuntary spasm, and your leg jerks in the dry leaves. The murderous men call out shrilly and point your way. You must run for it. Go to 116. Alright, here we go. The shrieking war party pursues you. You are already tired. Your only hope lies in getting sufficiently far ahead to hide. Make a stealth roll. If you succeed, go to 111. If you fail, go to 117. Well, we saw how our last stealth roll went, so this should be a laugh. Or not. That's a roll of an 8, so we've passed. Alright, passing, where were we? Oh, yes. We succeeded, so we go to 111. Hidden behind an ancient glacial moraine, you watch the group of gray men hurry past. Once they are long gone, you withdraw through the underwood at a tangent to their route. Make a luck roll. If you succeed, go to 513. If you fail, go to 67. Alright, so once again, our luck is 85. Alright, that is an 82. So that sends us back to... where are we? Oh, yes, 513. Alright, time to decide the course of your expedition. I think we've had enough adventure. We've had enough close calls. Let's get back to Fort McDonald. So, 593. Alright. Passage 593. You pass the place of splitting water with no particular difficulty and reach the calmer waterways of the West Branch. The foraging is ample now, and you recover strength as you draw near to Fort McDonald. Go to 433. Sorry, jarred the camera there. 433, here we go. Alright. After so many days on the river and nights in the woods, it feels strange to sit in a stifling room and answer questions about your conduct. If you have lost any members of your party or have confirmed their death, multiply the number of such losses by 15. This is your liability score. Roll a D100. If the result is greater than your liability score, go to 530. If the result is equal to or less than your liability score, go to 531. So we've lost everybody in the party, which makes our liability score here a 60. Because we had 4 people in the group to start with, and we lost everybody in the process. So 4 people in the group times 15 per is 60. All right, that's a 22. So since that's less, that sends us to 531. When your report of your party's misfortunes is analyzed by the Canadian authorities, they take you into custody and bring formal charges against you. They seem uninterested in any evidence of your discoveries. Go to 538. Your trial lasts weeks, during which every field decision you made is questioned. It is almost a relief when you are convicted of gross negligence and contributory manslaughter. You are incarcerated in a Canadian penitentiary, where you become withdrawn and isolated, staring from your cell at distant woodland. A year later, you become eligible for parole, and the committee looks favorably on your conduct. Once you are free to leave Canada, you return to a ruined career in the USA. You have lost your position at Miskatonic University. The evidence you brought back from your expedition has been neglected during your confinement. All the most important pieces have been lost or ruined. Nevertheless, you attempt to publish your findings. Your article only draws sensational press attacks, characterizing you as a moral cretin willing to sacrifice human life for scientific glory. You vanish from public notice with the dawning of the Great Depression. The Nattleman expedition is over. The end. Well, that was moderately depressing, but kind of happens when you go on an expedition into the woods that seems to be doomed. But that will do it for this video of this playthrough called Cthulhu Alone Against the Frost. Hopefully you've enjoyed this. Thank you for your patience as I was getting over a cold. Next week, I don't know what we're doing next week yet, actually. I'll have to kick that around. I think next week's video will probably be something of a surprise. I'll probably have a new game on the channel, but I haven't decided what that game will be yet. I'll try to make a post about that when I do decide. Thank you for watching this video. Please give it a thumbs up, and if you enjoyed what you saw, subscribe to the channel. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Until then, take care, everyone.